Hello and welcome to WEC Talk, the podcast series from the FIA World Endurance Championship. I'm Martin Haven. In this episode, we speak to LMP2 winner Filipe Albuquerque. Louise Beckett rounds up the news and reaction from Le Mans 2020, and Toyota Gazoo Racing's Pascal Vasselon gives us his view on this year's Le Mans and on the future. But first, we catch up with the three Aston Martin racing drivers who claimed victory in GTE Pro. Delighted to be joined by Alex Lynn from his home, Maxime Martin from the Nürburgring, and rushing through Heathrow Airport trying to catch a plane, Harry Tincknell. Gentlemen, congratulations on a fantastic win for Aston Martin.
Thank you. I mean, definitely a great achievement from the whole team, from the drivers. And yeah, when you win Le Mans, you win Le Mans. You don't win Le Mans every weekend.
And Max, Spa 24 Hours is something your dad and your uncle have both done. You've done that too, but they haven't won Le Mans. So that's another little thing now that you've got in your career.
Yeah, it's 1-0 to my dad now on Le Mans thing. So that's very good. But no, they finished third overall, but yeah, never won. So at the end, it's great.
And Alex, for the two of you, the second win together after winning at Spa for AMR as well. But this is an entirely different deal, isn't it? The way that Le Mans has such a resonance with fans and with other drivers.
No, it does. And it does feel different. It feels very special. And yeah, to do it, to be honest with you, I was extremely proud of the way we did it in a very aggressive, attacking manner from the start. We knew what we wanted to do, and that was to lead from the front. We were confident, we were pretty confident we had pace in the car and in ourselves. And yeah, in fact, everything went to plan, which again, it doesn't happen often. And I'm very thankful and grateful that it did. And yeah, to be able to share it with Harry and Max was a very special day, really special.
Well, let's talk to Harry before he gets called as the last boarder onto his plane. Harry, new to the team, how does it compare at AMR with other teams that you've raced for?
It was just a fantastic week from start to finish. I mean, pretty flawless race. Very unusual to go through a whole Le Mans with no issues, no contacts, no penalties, no strategy problems, no pit stop errors. So it's just, really, really incredible performance by AMR. Compared, I don't want to get too drawn into like comparing cars and everything like that, but clearly the advantage is, strong in all areas. Raceability was great. We were able to sort of get through the AM traffic well. And that just meant that we could, clear them before the next sequence of corners and be able to put in really consistent, fast lap times. And it was a really close battle, obviously, all the way with the Ferrari, but we probably just had the edge on them on pace. And over 24 hours, that sort of eked out to a minute at the end with some fantastic work and strategy in the pits. And the no brake change just gave us that gap when we needed it, sort of 3-4 hours from the end, when it was all starting to get a little bit tense.
Well, tell us about that, Max. No brake change, but we already saw that the 98 car in the AM class did need brakes. How much of a question mark was that towards the end of the race? Are we going to make it, or are we going to be forced into the pits?
It's something we have worked quite hard in before Le Mans and now for a few months, maybe years, about the brakes. We knew that with these regulations now, that all the time changing tires is taking time. Changing brakes is going to be time gain if you don't have to change. So we really worked hard to find something that we could at the end do the 24 hours without changing brakes. So it wasn't really we didn't race 24 hours before, so it was a bit of expectations of what we calculated. And we were checking the brakes every stops to see the evolution. And it was quite clear, I think, after 15, 16 hours that we could go to the end, yeah.
So, Alex, first and third for AMR. Must have been great to have such a competitive car and to be able to have such a really intense fight.
Yeah, I think one thing I really want to stress is we actually had the same BOP. In fact, we had a little bit less power than what we were given pre-qualifying last year. So actually, for me, the improvement that has come from the car in 12 months has been staggering, honestly staggering. And that is a lot of hard work and cleverness from everyone at AMR and ProDrive to find so much pace in the car. And it was a real pleasure to drive, to beat the Ferraris in the end. And it was an intense fight. I can assure you that not one lap was any of us trying to conserve anything. It was full attack, and I feel sorry for our car because well, she made it to the end and survived, and that is a testament again, because like I said, I can assure you there was not 1 inch given either way.
So, Harry, you all drove it like you stole it. But that's what you have to do at Le Mans. You can't take it easy on the machinery, can you?
No, it's so true. And it was quite funny at the end of the race, in a way, like on the podium when we saw James and Pierre Guidi and Sarah, because it was like for the whole race, they were the enemy and we were just hunting them down. And every time we saw their car, it was just like, right, we just got to push and pass them. And, we're sort of out of sequence on the tyre strategy. So when we had new tyres, they had old tyres and vice versa. So, the gap was going up and coming down. And, whenever we had an opportunity to pass, it was a big lunge down the inside or the outside and try and pull the gap as quick as possible. It really, they say it's a 24-hour sprint, and it's an easy expression to say, but it really is. And there were no holes barred the whole time. And it was only really those last couple of hours, like we were saying, that the actual, the gap opened up to anything more than about 10 seconds. So it was really anybody's race right to the end. But, as Alex said, the car was fantastic. I didn't get to drive it in the previous edition, but it sounds like all the hard work from Gus Patelli and all his performance crew back at ProDrive really, made the difference between this year and last year.
Well, the Union flag was flying outside ProDrive, where AMR is based, on Monday morning, proudly, as it always does after victory. Harry is, if only you could see the video, Harry is just about literally walking down to get into the plane. So we'll say goodbye to him, and thank you both to Harry Tincknell, to Max Martin, and to Alex Lynn. Gentlemen, congratulations again. It was a strange Le Mans, but it didn't make it any less of a race. Well done indeed to Aston Martin.
Thanks a lot, Martin. Appreciate it, mate.
Good luck in the 24 hours as well, Max. And Alex, get some rest. We all need it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
For United Autosports, the number 22 car was in the hunt in LMP2 from the very first lap and claimed victory on the very last lap. But Filipe Albuquerque, you were in the garage and you died 100 times in those last few minutes. The tension was obvious.
Yes, definitely. I aged a little bit. I think from the outside, it's way harder than from the inside, because, the inside, what you have to do, you are pushing, you are doing. But from the outside, you see the whole picture, you see where the pieces are going to. And my history, especially in Le Mans, is telling me that you only win Le Mans when you cross the finish line, and a lot can happen. It's a long lap, 3 minutes and a half. And even if, when Paul came out with nearly 2 minutes ahead, I knew that it could go all down, because any safety car could compromise, even if it looked like everyone was already on the taking the car home. But it happened a crash, and the safety car came to shake it up that. And we didn't know if the Jota car had to pit. So we had to do all the accountings and the counts of the distance and how much fuel we had to do. And it was another interesting thing was, we have 2 minutes, it's fine. But then when you're flat out, that 2 minutes is not 2 minutes anymore, because when you're in a safety car, it's bigger. But when you're flat out, it's like only 1 minute. So, this is going to be very tight. So, oh my God, we had to stop for sure. And when Phil came out with only 4 seconds. It was super close, and we could see him completely on a limit, nearly having a mistake, but not. He just hold it up perfectly. And obviously, I was just scared, and I could see the picture coming back of, I can't imagine that I'm going to lose this race with 10 minutes to go.
And then suddenly you saw Davidson peeling into the pits, and we saw the reaction in the garage. But like you say, even the last lap isn't certain, is it? And, you know, the last few years have taught us that. Never believe until the flag.
Yes. Yeah, well, the big relief was definitely when Anthony Davidson came to the pits. But they did an amazing bluff, because we didn't know. We knew that they pitted a lap later or two. So they had more fuel than us. So we knew for sure that we had to pit. And we didn't know that they needed. But when they came, so they played the bluff of, let them think that we go to the end. Let them think that they need to push like hell to stay ahead, and eventually make a mistake. We didn't make a mistake, but then they came to the pits, and yes, that tension was super good, because I relaxed a lot, and I just said to Phil, 40 seconds, just bring the car home, just brake early, I don't care, because 2 laps, it's you can lose 10 seconds a lap and it's fine. So yeah, I was more relaxed, but definitely I was in Le Mans when Toyota lost in 2016. So yes, even though it's a way more complex car, but yeah, I kept it cool until the checkered flag.
Listen, tell us about Hyperpole as well. That was a brand new thing this year. How did the drivers react to that? What did you think of the whole experience of it?
I think it's very good. It's well made, to be honest. I think it's another point of interest of this great show, and especially in the near future, which without the COVID, we have the fans there cheering for that. It's going to be supposedly on the Thursday, so it's going to be a point to see, instead of using qualifying sessions as a free practice, and then as well you can see lap records getting smashed, because you can maximize the car. And it doesn't mean anything, the pole position, but in the end, everyone that is on the top 6 or even beyond that, they want to be there. They want to do the pole position. I said to my mechanic, to my engineer, my engineer, that I wanted to do the Hyperpole, and he said, "No, let's think like, I know that every driver wants to do the qualifying. Let's put pole. I want you to start, and the strategy is this. Let's not shake that. Oh, damn it! But I really wanted the feeling of new tires and low fuel. This car must be amazing around this track like this." And yeah, I never got the taste. But again, Paul did an amazing job, and this is the good thing about having this great lineup, that we trust on each other, and even if it was not pole position, it would be fine anyway. But again, being on pole, it's just another point, and it's good for the ego of pole, and it's good for the car, knowing that we have a fast car. So for me, I was enjoying watching it.
And for you guys, of course, you're racing in Le Mans, you're racing World Endurance, but you are also going to be very busy trying to tie up the European Le Mans Series title. So it just keeps going now, doesn't it? How much time off do you have before you're back in the cockpit?
Well, so now it's going to be some interviews going on, some attention, especially for I think for me more than Paul, I believe, than Phil, because as a Portuguese, it was a big thing in Portugal this Le Mans, because it was the only 2 Portuguese that they were in the race. They were fighting for the win, and we never won in LMP2, and it was an amazing, exciting race. On the Monday night, I got a call from the president of Portugal. Yeah, the president called me and congratulating me for the great success. That is a trophy that Portugal never won before, and obviously that's big, and I'm super happy about it. So I will have now 1 week of this excitement. But again, I know for sure that the European Le Mans guys, and especially the 32, which is our main rivals, they're already working hard, and they are for sure ready already to kill us next time we go on track and prove that they deserve to win off Le Mans. I know exactly that because I've been in that position. I've been the one that lost. I lost already Le Mans 6 times. So I need to prepare myself for that. But, you know, there is time for everything, and let's see how it goes.
Time now for the Beckett briefing with our Louise Beckett. Louise, Le Mans, so much the same and yet so utterly, utterly different this year.
It really was different. It was completely different for me because I was watching it from a TV screen and not being on the grid or in the pits. But yeah, completely different feeling. Although once the racing started, you'd never know, would you? You know, they carried on as they normally would. So that was the good thing.
And if you'd not been before, if that was your first Le Mans, it's a race. Okay, not fans in the grandstands, but you wouldn't know, would you?
Well, this is it, isn't it? There were so many newcomers to this Le Mans this year, so many rookies. And for them to experience that for the first time, such a different experience. I was speaking with Andrew Watson, who is part of the lineup for the 86 Golf Racing, who's never been to Le Mans. He has competed in the virtual Le Mans, which is interesting. So he's done it virtually, but never in reality. And, you know, for him, he couldn't take all his friends and family like he normally would. He didn't get to go down to the town and do the driver parade and feel like a rock star, like you said. The scrutineering, the whole build-up, it would have been completely different. And so when we were talking last week, he said, I can't wait for my second Le Mans because then I can see what it's like with all the people around.
It was funny that instead of being 10 days, it was sort of just really a long weekend. But the on-track action was just as ferocious as ever. It was just as competitive. And they added in a new element as well, and very successfully, I thought, with Hyperpole.
Oh, it was such a success. Yeah, with everybody to watch it on the TV, but also for the drivers. I heard the interview with Paul de Rister at the end, and when he was lining up as the P1, and he said that was the most exciting thing he's done because obviously there's going to be minimal cars that on track, and that, yeah, it just made it really, really exciting. Why hasn't it been done before?
Yes, and that's what you think when you see it and how obvious it is. But when you mess with tradition, sometimes you think, okay, maybe we shouldn't do that. But it was a huge success, and can't wait to see it back. Also successful, I think, the fact that 59 cars in the main race, 34 cars, 35 cars in Road to Le Mans, and another 45 cars or so in the Porsche Carrera Cup, all came into the bubble and all got to race because the COVID protocols were really well thought out and really well enforced at Le Mans.
I mean, that is a monumental amount of people. If you think about each of those cars, even if each of those cars had 2 drivers, not 3, alone, that's a lot of people. But then all the team members as well, it's a huge, huge task for the ACO to take on.
And there were about 100 accredited journalists in the place, which is possibly something like a tenth of what there normally would be. TV crew was much the same size because the circuit wasn't any shorter. You needed just as many cameras and riggers and everything else, but it was quite different. So what else? GTE Pro, we've heard from the Aston Martin boys. I mean, great weekend for Aston there. First and third, their best ever World Endurance result, tied up the World Championship. Toyota number 8, dead and buried at 12 hours in. They knew their hopes were over, and suddenly they were handed a third straight win for that car. I mean, you know, yeah, Le Mans has to smile on you, doesn't it? And the number 7 car again must be wondering what on earth they have to do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for them. But also looking at GT Am, because we haven't spoken about that one yet. Sally Yuluch, I've been told that that's how you pronounce it by a Turkish person, not Sally Yuluch. Now, he has been so focused, and his goal has been, like many drivers, has been to win Le Mans. And apparently what I've heard is that he's always had for years as his screensaver on his phone a picture of the Le Mans trophy. So he's visualizing it. Before he went to Le Mans, he moved trophies out the way on the shelf and made a space for his Le Mans trophy. And he spoke with his team, TF Sport, obviously, and at Spa, they said, well, there's just a few things that aren't quite right with the car. Nothing major, but just not quite right. So TF Sport, they went off and they did their research. They looked into history of Le Mans winners, and they said, look, what we think is we need to build a new car. If you want to win Le Mans, if you're serious about winning it, we need to build a new car. So he agreed to it, and look what happened. That all came true.
It's phenomenal, isn't it, to take the risk of building a brand new car when you've already got one that works perfectly well, that you could just massage a little bit. But that's sometimes what it takes. And for Tom Ferrier, as we said in commentary, aside obviously from getting married and from the birth of his children, the biggest day of his life, you know, an ex-racer, British racer, turned team owner. They are so ambitious, and they just battered everybody else into submission by being relentless in the pits, on the track, fast all the time, and there was just no errors. And that's a phenomenal achievement for a small privateer team to beat Aston Martin Racing, who did have problems, and to beat the might of Ferrari and Porsche. So a really solid job. And then part of the other story in LMP2, as well as the action on the track, was just how cheek to jowl the teams were in the pit lane, which led to all sorts of interesting dynamics, didn't it?
Well, this is it. I don't know if people normally look at where garages are in the pit lane, because everyone's looking at what's happening on track. But the number 22 United and the number 38 Jota, which were battling it out, as we know, on track, were actually right next to each other in the pit lane. So their garages are right next to each other. So when one comes in, the other one can keep an eye on what they're doing, seeing what they're changing tyres to, fueling, whatever it may be. And they really played on that between the two teams in the pits, not just out on track.
32 was the quicker of the two United cars, but didn't have the luck. And 37 was the quicker of the two cars run by Jota, but the Jackie Jandisi Racing boys ran out of luck as well. And again, like with Toyota, like with everybody else, you can bring everything you like, but Le Mans has to smile on you.
No, but everybody says it, and it's so true.
A pleasure to be able to catch up with Toyota Gazoo Racing's technical director, Pascal Vasselon, after a third straight victory at Le Mans. Pascal, how much does that mean to the team, to the engineers, to everybody involved in the whole programme?
It just seems that now things are going our way, because going to Le Mans, there are always many ways to get it wrong, and it could have happened this year again. For example, for the first time since 17, our two cars went into the garage, which did not happen in 18 and did not happen in 19. So this Le Mans race has not been a perfect race for us. We have had incidents, we have had one reliability issue, but this time everything came back together and we could still win. Compared to 14, 16, 17, when we were the logical winners, but something was coming in our way which was defeating us.
Le Mans needs to smile on you, doesn't it?
This is what we have learned the hard way, clearly. People used to say that Le Mans is deciding its winner. It's absolutely true. We can testify it.
We're heading towards the end of one story with the TS050, and we're looking towards the future. How far down the line is Toyota Gazoo Racing now with the future program?
I think here we have seen probably one of the few benefits of the virus crisis, because before the pandemic broke out in March, we were on for an extremely difficult schedule, not to say unrealistic, because we had to roll out the car in July to start racing in September after a long homologation process. So all this would have been extremely difficult. Now, with what has happened in the past months, everything has been late, but now the start of the season is late as well. And bringing the start of the next season in March 21 in Sebring, it has given us, I would say, a large enough time buffer. So now we are working according to a very workable schedule, not easy, but workable. We are going to roll out our LMH car next month, which is obviously early enough to be ready to start racing in Sebring mid-March.
And of course, the testing is going to be so vital, isn't it? As with all new technology, presumably that's going to be your focus now. You had, as you said, in the pandemic, a lot of time for thinking. When does testing start? Has testing already started?
No. At the moment, we are building the car. So our mechanics will not have a lot of rest after Le Mans because they have immediately to jump on the car build of the new LMH because we are going to roll it out middle of October.
While we've been thinking and while you've been planning for the future, you're not alone as well, because Peugeot have announced that they will return to the top class as well, not immediately, but in the very close future. So we're going to start to see again history being repeated, the clash of some big manufacturer names in endurance racing.
Yes, and to start with, we will have with us next year in 21 Bikoles and Glickenhaus. And yes, fortunately, Peugeot have confirmed last week that they will join in 22. Not sure exactly when they will be ready, but for sure they will be there in 22. And it's really good news for us.
Now, in terms of the win at Le Mans this year, as you say, both cars had an issue. I understand it was a broken exhaust manifold that caused the turbo problems on number 7, and that's not easy to change. And number 8, brake cooling issues, the odd puncture. I mean, those are sort of things that can happen to anybody at Le Mans as well, aren't they? So they were lucky, I guess, that their issue was less than car 7.
Yeah, it's true that car 8 have had a problem, which was, let's say, a race incident. It was not a reliability issue. It's the kind of things which happen when you run on debris. And being unlucky with this problem, they have been lucky that it took us a lot less to fix the issue. 10 minutes instead of 29 minutes for the exhaust change on car 7. And on top of that, we could do this repair during a safety car period, which made that these 10 minutes translated in only one lap disadvantage. So definitely, yes, car 8 have been more lucky with their issues during the race.
And Rebellion pushed you very hard, didn't they? You know, they had a pretty clean race towards the end. They too started to run into issues with wear, but it wasn't always guaranteed that Toyota were going to have one car on the podium, never mind both of them.
No, absolutely, you're right. All the ingredients were there for us to have a tough race because we knew, and it has materialized, that the pace of the Rebellion was extremely close to us, if not a bit faster in ultimate pace. In terms of pit stop, we that we had been a bit balanced, and then we were not supposed to do any difference there. Nevertheless, we've done a difference in the pit stop, and we have really to congratulate our crews because they have been exceptional. And then the last ingredient maybe was that definitely the Rebellion is a reliable car. So they had all the ingredients to give us a hard time. And they did, as you say, at some point, we could have imagined that with a bit of bad luck from our side, we would have had a 1-2 Rebellion.
That's it for this WEC Talk. Thanks to all of our guests, Alex Lynn, Maxime Martin and Harry Tincknell, Filipe Albuquerque and Pascal Vasselon. And of course to Louise Beckett. We'll be back with more in a month's time on Friday, October the 23rd. Until then, stay safe and thank you for listening.